Welcome to our first World Space Week dialogue. This year's theme is space and climate change. Our role is to increase space education, public outreach, with our priority focus on sustainable development. Our programme of activities will showcase how space, science and technology align with the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in the area of agriculture, disaster management, STEM education, environmental monitoring, and sports performance. So this evening, we're going to hear from four of our key speakers. That's Joel Singh from GEC Space Program, Tonya Karma, Dr. Sunday Popaola, and Dr. Michael Bruce, and Dean Roden, sorry. So good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this first space dialogue. So let's get started. So I would now like to introduce Joel Singh, GEC Space Program, and just to give us his overview of the activities his organization is involved in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Singh, the director of the GEC Space Program. I'm going to be sharing my views pretty much on World Space Week and what we're actually doing about it for the week. But not just that, but also sharing some insights on one of our big projects that we're doing. But for those that don't know who GEC is, GEC stands for General Electric Company. It's a British company pretty much that started back in 1887, was quite instrumental in World War I, World War II with aviation, was also quite well known for what we regard the electrification of the Earth. So we're not talking about just only white goods and appliances, which what most people know about in terms of, household appliances like kettles and fridges and those type of things. But it also took a lot of lead in terms of innovation. Right. So it prides itself with regards to innovation. Now, when I talk about innovation, I'm not just talking about sort of, just the latest and greatest in terms of aviation or again, home plans. I'm also talking about life sciences as well. So there's a lot of solutions that was done within the healthcare sector back in the 1930s and 1940s. And the company grew quite substantially up until the late 1990s, where it experienced some financial problems and went through various changes with GEC Marconi and thereafter Sony and Telent, and we took over in 2020. When we took over the company in 2020, we decided to venture into something new and stay within the same framework where GEC has always been leading with innovation, and hence the birth in 2021 of our GEC Space Program. So the GEC Space Program, ambitious program, which is meant to drive humanity in a way that will shape the space industry to ensure that we are inclusive and representative of everybody on Earth. So with that being said, we then embarked on a mission to identify a project that will satisfy those requirements. Now, more specifically, the space habitats. Now, space habitats is something that, we've always heard about, which is the ISS, which is the International Space Station, which includes a number of nations. But UK itself has never had its own space station. So GEC embarked on a journey last year to create the first GEC space station. But we weren't too happy because we weren't doing anything innovative. So a lot of the companies that are building projects, so there's several licenses out for firms and industry leaders within the aviation space to replace the International Space Station. But the targets of what they're actually doing is pretty much the same sort of targets as what we've had for the last 50 years. So they're not doing anything innovative and new. So we embarked on a journey. I'm saying, okay, fine. I mean, why like 10 to 15 people? Why can't we do 100 or maybe 200 people? So we decided on 200 people in space. But then the next challenge is obviously you can't have 200 people floating around. So we had to nail down the engineering requirements for us to have artificial gravity. So we satisfied those requirements. Then the next biggest problem, which is what most people have within the space industry, is unlocking the funding to make this dream a reality. And we are, I'd say, 70% there with satisfying the funding that we need. In terms of a value and the cost that's associated with this, we're looking at about 860 billion pounds, which I am allowed to share out. In terms of the funding structures that's needed, we're getting quite creative in raising these sort of funding. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I can't share the details of the funding structures. But yeah, so that's the main part of the GEC Space City initiative. Now, if you remember a few minutes ago, I spoke about life sciences and health. Now, it's the first time humanity or humans are going to be living in space. At the moment, humans go to the International Space Station and they're there on a 3-month rotation. If you go past 3 months, or I think maximum has been a year, you lead into problems like space dementia, and there's a whole lot of unknowns around it as well. So, so the life sciences part is the part that we're going to be focusing on first. So we're going to spend the first 2 years focusing on life sciences. But next year, I can announce that we intend to have the first module up in space, hopefully Q3, Q4. It's what we call our foundation stone project. It's meant to be the centerpiece of the space city. And it'll have tracking systems, propulsion technology. It's also going to be forming the centerpiece of our space city as a whole, where it allows for data repeaters, right? But it's also going to include engraving of certain names that we'd like to include as part of our centerpiece. So that's something where we embarked on a project which was launched about 2 weeks ago called Friends of the Space City, which is where we be inclusive of anybody and everybody, where if anybody on Earth would like to have their name on the foundation stone within Space City, then you would then become a friend of the Space City, which is a project that we kicked off, like I said, a few weeks ago. So yeah, so in the interest of time, I'm not going to go too much into details. So the key things are GEC Space City launched. First project Acorn is a foundation stone. That's going to be launched next year. Then our main focal point, our challenges are obviously life sciences. The funding's been unlocked. And yeah, so if anybody wants to get involved, and it doesn't have to be specific with space, because remember, it's a city. So anything and everything, like somebody suggested to us, we do need to cut our hair. So are you going to have a hairdresser on the space city? So it's things like that. So please do reach out. And yeah, yes. I mean, I could go on and on talking, but let me give the floor to somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Joel. It's a great start. I'm going to go straight to Tonye at Enrich Geo, just because of, I know he's got to go to another appointment. But Tonye, your contribution is valuable. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for that amazing introduction, Joel, and good to see you again. It's been a minute now. And thank you for having me as well, Rudy. An absolute pleasure of mine to be here with all you fantastic gentlemen. My name is Tonye Kama. I represent a company called Enrigio Tech Solutions. Enrigio is an agri-tech company formed in January of 2022. And since then, we have managed to work our way into deploying our tech services in helping improving the lives of farmers, landowners, and farm owners. Farmers. We do geomapping of farmlands. We also do data collection or data mobilization, using that to build an in-depth database of farmers. However, with that said, our geomapping is not exclusive to just mapping of lands. It can be deployed in disaster zones as well, helping state municipalities or governments themselves to actually read and create a detailed report of that land going forward following any sort of disaster. but we currently use it for farmers in several African countries, and have started working on supporting farmers here, even in the UK as well. One of what we do is using satellite coordinates, longitude and latitude, to help farmers in this case, or in this instance, identify the actual land size, soil type, contours, deficiency in the soil. By that I mean we help them identify if their soil's lacking in any nutrients or minerals. Then they know the right type of fertilizer to apply and deploy into that land to boost it. We identify produce fruits and veggies compatible with that soil. And more importantly, produce you can actually take to market. So it's not just having produce that is compatible, but produce that you can actually take to market. So that's what we do. We also do the data collection where we use that. We use that to build a repository, a real-time repository of farmer information or farmer data. And the reason for that, or the idea behind that, was we have loads of entities like the World Bank, the UN, the EU, who want to support countries in sub-Saharan Africa, Caribbean. Sometimes they go there with a whole lot of money, but end up leaving with that money because the people or the countries or the regions they want to support do not have a repository or a bank of data that they can say to the EUs, the UNs, that this is the amount of farmers we have. These are the information we have on these farmers, on these farmlands. So when they ask, which they always do, and they go, oh, we haven't got any repository, they always go, all right, we'll see you next year. And they end up going away with that money, which is a big shame because that money, or those money, make a massive difference. Enrijo is part of an EU consortium to deliver STEM program to sub-Saharan African countries. We were responsible for selecting 15 in-country African partners from Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Malawi. And the purpose is to support them in science, tech, engineering, maths, and agriculture. So that's that, and that's why it's very important that we enhance and improve upon our data tool, which we have deployed already. We also do e-commerce platform because not just giving the farmers data or information or real-time data and information, what we also tend to try and do is connect farmers in Africa to actual off-takers in Europe. My background's Nigerian, so I tend to lean towards Nigeria quite a lot. What I try to always do is I'm as much British as I'm Nigerian, so I try to bring the two together to work, be aligned. And I am involved with quite a few farmers in Nigeria who are happy to work specifically for groups, for off-takers or wholesale distributors in the UK to bring certain exotic produce in the shape of mango, cashews, passion fruits, those sort of things that have global gap accreditations behind them, bring them to the UK, and sort of redistribute to the likes of Aldi, Lidl, and what have you. We've got a massive African population of over 5 million, if I'm not mistaken, and it's such a niche market for everyone to sort of tap into. But the so-called supermarket holders don't seem to quite understand it. I said to really once upon a time, I was speaking and I was sat with Sebastian Sainsbury's, and I asked him, my local Sainsbury's in Osterley, and I asked him if he knew how many aisles actually catered to African produce, and he didn't know. I said half an aisle. And in that Sainsbury's, you had nearly 50 aisles. Okay, such a niche space for everyone to sort of tap into, and without being, just create a circular way of working, because everyone benefits from it. Everyone becomes a stakeholder. Anyway, what NGO does and what NGO is involved in. We also involved in a current project in some African countries with Future Earth. So when Rudy mentioned this to me, I thought this is something of someone out there is speaking to me through Rudy. So yes, this is very much in line, and I'm really honoured to be here with all you fine people. So thank you very much for allowing me the space to.
Thank you very much, Tonya. And I know that we'll be hearing a lot more from you in the future. The points around the agriculture and the sustainable development, the environmental monitoring are all parts of your agri-tech business. So we will be coming back to you. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'd now like to go to Dr. Sunday Popaola. And I know STEM research and youth development are really important to Sunday.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Rudy, for inviting me. And I've taken the opportunity to invite two of my colleagues. You see them there, Alison and also Jenny. These are two people I've been working with for many years to try and bring space education to young people.
Excellent.
Yeah, they organize a lot of space events. Last weekend, they were in Liverpool doing a space challenge event with students from around Liverpool. And they do the same thing in different regions of the UK. And then they come together and do a national challenge at Imperial College. So that was where my involvement is. But since then, we've been doing this, I don't know how many years now, over 10, 15 years. But Imperial College, as part of its strategy for science for humanity, it's called, okay? Space, healthcare, engineering, and I think it's business are the four areas where Imperial College wanted to really get their energy into in the next 10, 15 years. And as a result of that, they're creating global hubs across the world. This year, Singapore, India, USA, and Ghana. That's where they're going to create their hub. And the hub, again, is to give people the opportunity, instead of having to come all the way to Imperial, give people the opportunity to learn something locally, whereby staff from Imperial College could go there and teach them. So space is an amazing thing. Everybody is interested in it now. Myself, Alison, and Jenny, we ran an event in Saudi Arabia about 2 years ago for the whole week, where we educate Saudi undergraduates or people who just qualify, and they wanted to go into learning more about space. And we spent 2 weeks there to actually, do a lot of workshops with them, a lot of presentation to them. And people that can't make it, they connect remotely, and it went very, very well. Again, we've been looking at other countries as well. UAE wants to do it. Kenya wants to do it. Another colleague, Washington Yoshin, who is the head of department of my department, civil engineering department at Imperial College, is also into GPS, space, and all that. This is an area of expertise. So for us, it's something we think there's a niche there that we really need to get out there and educate people about that. So we're starting from young people from primary, secondary education. We're now going to adults, people who wanted to have a change of career, for example, or people who are working with a space organization, but they don't know too much about space and they want to come to university and learn. As a result of that, we've set up what should I call it? A center, should I call it? Called Integrated Space Science and Engineering. Yeah. And it could be run online, it could be run in person, it could be run anywhere in the world. And we've partnered with a lot of people. Imperial have something called Space Lab, which is based in physics. And physics department also have been involved in a lot of space expedition. A lot of these instrumentation that's gone on to space were created within this physics department. So we've been heavily involved in that. This ISSC, Integrated Space Science and Engineering, is a new initiative, and we're looking to partner with anybody that wants to partner with us. We started it this year. We did a couple of workshops, but next year we're hitting the ground running. Jenny.
Engineering Foundation.
Engineering, okay. Space Science Engineering Foundation. They're always looking for very innovative and very active speaker to come and speak to young people. It's really, really big, because that's where we're going now. The future is in space. So we really need to educate people and carry people along. So that's where we are. Thank you very much.
Right. In fact, I see Jenny, you're nodding. Would you like to say a few words before we move on?
I will, but I do know that Alison will step in a minute and say that we also do environment as well as engineering.
Excellent.
So I'm the CEO of a small charity called the Space Science and Engineering Foundation. And we do lots of, we liaise with Dr. Sunday there. And Dr. Sunday has been a judge and a speaker at many of our events. So thank you. I have to say that I leapt in a bit late, so I'm very sorry, but I was very, very happy to hear, is it Tonya saying about mangoes and passion fruit and all those things that I absolutely love. So thanks for educating me a little on that. I appreciate that. We are a charity, a UK charity, and last year we sort of probably saw well over 1,500 children in the UK. We go to local universities, but get school children in and run a competition with them. Those children then come, the winning children from that competition then come to the finals at Imperial in March. But we also run something with younger children as well. So this week, as Dr. Sunday said, we went to the University of Liverpool, where one of the professors who does small payloads for the International Space Station was one of our judges. We also had one of his PhD students who does robotics for space, and another engineering undergraduate, plus all our own alumni. So the alumni from our competitions then come back and help us run the events. And we are getting the funding together to send 12 UK students. We have funding a little bit from United Airlines to send those children. We're working on sending 12 children from both the EU and from different regions of Africa along to the international finals that are held at the Kennedy Space Center every year. So very nice thing. So the Team Africa last year, Dr. Sunday helped us get some of those students, and we're always keen to get other students. So if you know of anyone in different African countries that's still at secondary school, so preferably over 16 and around 16, 17, 18, we'd be very, very interested. I wonder if I should pass over to Alison now, who can tell you a little bit more about the environmental side of things as well.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison?
Hello. Yes, the environmental activity that we do is based on the idea that the reason school students can design a space settlement, which Jenny was just describing, is because they all live in a settlement on a planet in the solar system. It just happens that the planet is Earth, and we call the settlements towns, villages, cities. But they inherently understand user need because they are users themselves, and they understand the kind of facilities and infrastructure they need because they are users themselves. So with the space activity, we're asking them to extrapolate from their experience now forward into time to when we might have settlements on, say, Mars. But that same knowledge also informs their ability to think about how can we fix problems here on Earth now. So I was very interested to hear what Tonya was describing about the geomapping. Sub-Saharan Africa, you can tell a farmer what nutrient they need because you're able to do this mapping. Now, we actually set our environmental design challenge in Sierra Leone, because it's on many measures, it's an extremely poor country. But the mayor of Freetown is the co-chair of the United Nations C40 cities scheme, the cities where the mayors are trying to share best practice for sustainability and sustainable development and recovery of their cities. And the mayor of Freetown is co-chair with Sadiq Khan, who is the mayor of London. So this is a very interesting combination that intellectually, although they are so far apart on GDP, the mission is joint, and the chairmanship of the C40 city scheme under the United Nations is joint. So Freetown has some serious problems with the favelas, or that they would be called in Brazil the shanty towns, which are undeveloped, unplanned settlements. So the idea that you get school students to use their understanding of planning settlements, of design, of what people need, and apply that on Earth to Freetown, to an unplanned settlement, or in space to a future planned settlement, so a not yet existing one. So there's much more commonality between the Sustainable Development Goals for space and the Sustainable Development Goals for Earth than people, especially school students, might at first appreciate. Interestingly for us, physics and science students tend to go to the space design one because it's set in space. We found geography students and a wider array of students would do the Earth one. And yet they're basically the same. It's designing a human settlement. So how you frame the discussion determines who you can draw into the discussion. And we only got to see that because the same thing, one in space, one on Earth, completely different audiences were attracted. And that might be something for us all to bear in mind, and how we can break down those barriers. But this is a great meeting, so I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you very much, both Jenny and Alison, and what you touched on there, Alison, in the world that I'm in, we always talk about the means of communication may be different, but the needs are the same. And you really described that there. And the other important aspect, and I'm really pleased that both of you are on, because you're now introduced to Jamaica. You'll see my background there, Jamaica 2030. And we talk about families, neighborhoods, and sustainable communities. So including the built environment. And that's particularly why Tonya is on here, because of, agriculture, disaster management, environmental monitoring are essential part of one of the communities that we're working in. And that's in St. Thomas, a place called Landui, St. Thomas in Jamaica. And that's really our model for around sustainable development. My colleague Clive, who's from the area, will speak say a few words a bit later on. So again, being here in the UK and having that UK hub and access to all those sort of development systems and being innovative in the collaboration, as you've just described, with between London and Sierra Leone. And it's really great to hear at that real local, what sometimes we call the hyper local level, going down into the neighborhoods and communities. So I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Michael Bruce, CEO of Academy of Sporting Excellence. Thank you, Michael.
But look, yes, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce DeRoche, primarily coming from football. And I'm really heartened to be part of this. What's fascinating about this move forward is that for us, in particular in sports, the advent, and I know it's probably a small piece in terms of what we were speaking of, but AI in terms of life generally, but in terms of sport, has been massive. It's taken the game to a totally different level.
Yeah,
I think for us, you're always looking for the added bits, the small pieces, and what one point we thought, right, well, where do we go with the game? We've made players technical, we've made them athletic. We're scouting and sourcing in different parts of the world now. But of course, there's always something missing. And you've seen the change in the rules as far as kicking the ball away and all these little things. But I think ultimately, apart from the dislike for Arsenal, I thought I'd bung that bit in there again. But no, seriously, I think, look, the advent of AI in terms of technologies is fascinating, and it's sort of opened the doors again to and puts us in a place where it's almost as if football's been and sport generally invented again, because there's a whole plethora of different things in terms of certainly the app that we're launching. It's the first in the world of its kind. It's performance driven and predictive in its nature. So the vision is to get a 5-year-old, because of course, the age gets younger and younger now. I guess at some point we'll be identifying pregnant ladies and saying, listen, we've identified that your child's a boy and these are the genetics, and they're going to make an outstanding footballer or a basketball player. And although that's a joke, I think at some point it will get to that, because, certainly in all the development centers, we're looking at 5-year-olds now. But what can you do with a 5-year-old? So the app that we've designed that we'll launch soon is very much a predictive app. So, we have something like on the basic level, 41 to 51 data points, and that could go up to 1,000. Where obviously once we've done a diagnostic and done assessment on it, on that and on the players, we can sort of predict. At this stage, obviously, it's not where it will be, but of course we can get to a place where I can go to a club and say, look, this 5-year-old in 10 years' time is going to be this tall, this height, this colorized, this and so on, and he's going to be a fantastic striker, and this is the value. So from a monetary point of view, yes, of course. I think from a development and physiological point of view, yes, again. But of course, there was something called Universal Soldier, a movie that came out. I think it was with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not sure. Yeah. And I remember when I was young looking at this thinking, wow, this is fascinating, because, of course, I've run for England myself. I've coached Olympic gold medalists and so on. So I understand the level you need to go to. But even that opened my mind to the possibilities. And I think now where we are at the moment is that the possibilities are endless. Because as far as, and I know it's not just sport, but in terms of my piece of sports and everything else, we're on the cusp of it. I think we've dared to go to a place where no one else has at the moment. I know I did a little an AI psychology, because I'm a doctor of cognitive psychology myself. So I did a piece in terms of speaking to students and some other people. And I recall one of the other lecturers, she was really upset with me all day. And I'm thinking, well, why is she upset? And she said, you should not be tampering with the mind. And AI and that, because look, we know where it's going to go, with or without us. So I think certainly the psychology piece also added to what we're doing. I think is going to revolutionize the game as we know it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Michael. And of course, health research is one of the key pillars of what we're doing, and particularly in these times with long-term conditions, and
of course,
and that's a major generational thing as well.
Yeah,
and of course, if you're going to be in space, what does that do to the mind and the body as well?
For sure. And it's an integral piece, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, there's all the other things, as it relates to the as Tonya was talking about data. We're talking about satellites and things like that, and what goes on near Earth, not just literally in space as well, I guess.
Of course.
So, right. So thanks for that, Michael. But
thank you.
I think the underlying point around space and technology and sports tech, we've heard about agri-tech. So, Tonya talking about food, the importance of food. You're talking about sports performance, which, as we know, always translate to the general consumer when there's, high performance foods and drinks and things like that, or in the end become consumer products as well. So that whole area around health research. And Joel did mention earlier on, of course, about life sciences, of course. So, right. So we're now going to move across to Dean Roden, and we've got that connection. I mentioned as it relates to Jamaica that we're now going to ensure as part of all this. And Dean's initiative is around STEM education. And so what we're also thinking about that movement as it relates to STEM education of course, it's an area for talent development. And so again, we're about identifying talent as well. So going back to some of the things that Jenny was talking about that they do, that they are doing, this is the type of initiative under our what we call pathway to opportunities. So we're now saying, as part of the public outreach that we're starting with this initiative, so we're saying space, pathway to opportunities. So Dean, if you'd just like to say a few words before we come to
Good evening, good evening. Boy, I tell you, I'm so excited. I don't know where to start. Welcome. It's an honor to have me on this platform, Rudy, as your team is making connection work. And as I listen to your speaker, it's just like a dream come true for my program. My name is Dean Roden. I've been involved in community and youth development program for the past 40 years. I've been working with young people, and we have started this new project, Let's Talk Under the Reggae Tree. And what we do, we create a platform for young people to identify their career, and we guide them in the pathway. That's why I show you that picture behind me. So we have the doctor, we have the police, we have a vision. So each person give me a vision plan of what they would like to be when they grow up. And I tell you, we have been doing this for the past 3 years, and it has been the #1 program right across the world. We have people from Canada, England. So our next step is to take the kids to space. So you can imagine how excited I am to be on this platform. We have a STEM team. And so when I hear all these speakers, I'm like, I don't know who's going to sign up, but we have a team, and our team is called the Reggae Team. So, this is the first, it's going to unleash is on this platform, because we don't want nobody to copyright this team. It's a
reggae in space.
It's reggae, STEM, space, and technology. So we just want to sign up in all those competitions that you guys have, and we're looking forward to be on the team. Whatever part you guys are, England, you can just sign up the reggae STEM team. We're working close to the Boy Scout in Jamaica, so we have a team that we're training the National Scout Association, the Girl Guide Association, and several schools are, collaborating with us. So all those projects that I heard, I just tell you, just put reggae STEM on the slot. We will be participating, and we're going to be competing, against, the world-class team. So this is like preparing the bobsled team to go play the bobsled. So we are in 100% ready. I have been to what is called the clang night. And when I go to the clang night, we was like one patrol. First time, it's like, imagine the bobsled players, and that's how I feel. I feel so excited to be a part of this group. We just went to Jamaica to launch our branch, the Reggae Tree, right next door to Bob Marley. So we are preparing our head office. So we actually have a space center right where the community that Bob Marley used to. So there's a building, we'd love to have a space center. If we could get that space center to be our head office, right in the vicinity where Bob Marley would go and have his lunch. And there's so much history in that community. That's where we started the Windrush Anchor Festival 3 years ago. And we've been doing it for the past 3 years. The history of Augustown connected with Africa, England. So I would really put in a proposal and a budget for the STEM and Space Center to be right in that community to make history continue. Once again, thank you very much, Rudy and team, for having me.
And I'm glad, thank you, Dean, you mentioned about the Windrush Anchor Festival, because, just for the wider audience, the UK people will know about the Windrush. So last year we had the first Windrush Anchor Festival in Jamaica, and we've now continued with a series of festivals, programs of activities, all linked with sports, community development, neighborhood development. And, from today, we've added space. So it's really important in terms of our primary and high schools. This is linked directly to the Sustainable Development Agenda. So we've got our 5-year plan, as you see, 2030. So we're really pleased to be able to feed in and to weave in space as an integral part of this initiative. So we've got Kingston and we've got Llandewey in St. Thomas. So we really do intend to build this out. And talking about there's the creative futures that you'll know being in Imperial College. Sunday and myself and my daughter was there, Seymour Mattis. We launched Creative Futures in Jamaica about 4 years ago now, 5 years ago. So again, that theme of Creative Futures will be an integral part of the space program in Jamaica as well. And again, with that model developed, it will then become a Caribbean-wide initiative as well. So yeah, so we've got clear plans. Again, that's very much about our pathway to opportunities approach.
Rudy, just very quickly, let me just add to what Clive has said. Clive, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction to STEM in Jamaica. I'm especially pleased with the fact that you mentioned girls as well.
Yes.
So it wasn't just all around Boy Scouts. You mentioned Brownies and Girls Guides as well, so which is great.
Yeah.
I think it's equal opportunity. It's supporting both boys and girls from really, really early age. And the reason it resonates with me is because I'm involved in projects to end period poverty. And Rudy's pretty much aware of it in Africa, and hopefully would take that to the Caribbean as well.
Yeah.
So it's giving girls the opportunity as well to empower themselves, and who better to support them if not us? So I was especially glad to hear you actually say that.
Yeah.
At the very end of your introduction, and Michael, not just football. If you're keen on squash. Players as well. I play squash. I'm an active squash player. I used to play, actually, funny you guys mentioned North London and mentioned Highbury and all of that. I used to play at the right opposite the stadium.
Sobells? Michael Sobells?
Sobells Centre. I used to play squash there as well. Clive, really great stuff. Thank you. And Vivian, thank you ever so much as well. You guys did an amazing work.
Thank you for that, Tonya. And the important point is under the sustainable development, obviously there's clear focus on women and girls and their development. And part of the Llandewey project is that 80% of the projects will actually be women-led projects, especially around economic development and small business. And when we talk about small business, we're talking about micro, small enterprises. So we're talking about cooperatives, micro, small enterprises, which reflect the agricultural community of the area. So, Clive, would you just like to say, just give people just a broad overview of Llandewey in that area?
My space is Llandewey, which is a village community, and the educational aspect that hearing the contributions from the panel could make to make what we would say taking a village to raise a child from the experiences I myself has had here in England. The link with my members in the community, it's pretty obvious that what they've been able to do needs the support that would benefit, because food is very much our medicine. And I think as what Tonya made mention on the mangoes, there's so much natural things that we have, as well as the environment, to be able to heal to a certain extent. Because from my standpoint, I think the space that we're in, when we look around about us, it's an environmental problem that we need to make use of all the technologies which are around and about us. So from my community, we welcome the opportunity for our children to broaden their minds. I think with the links with Rudy, we're embarking on like the 4 R's, and there's all these sustainable development plans that, working with the local community, we know we can embrace, again, like scouts, to enjoy the environment and to appreciate the space that is which is round about them, and the opportunity to take their things to the market as little as, again, I think Tonya had made mention, because these are the things that we need to be able to re-energize and sustain our beings. Because as much as I am in favor of artificial intelligence, yeah, I think our space really is the environment to which we're in. The community of Landui gives me the energy. We've got a natural river, that I've oftentimes gone in and just relaxed. But there's the agriculture. There's so much. The micro businesses like honey. I've got honey from my uncle. He's passed, but that honey is so pure and natural that it's something that will last forever. Yeah. So the space I'm inviting you to be involved with is Landui, for the benefit to which I know, having experienced it, it can afford us all, as to how we can become as one, thinking holistically, as underneath the tree. I've got a guango tree in my community. Okay. Yeah. And reference was made to myself as Clive having spoken, but I think it was Dean that was emphasizing on the STEM. So yeah, with all the technology that is around us presently, our minds need to be at a place where we need to look on the world, the space within the world, and to make use of all the means and experiences that we have gained, I would say, in order to a certain extent, I say, like with Rudy, being able to bring us together. Yeah, we're on a mission to a certain extent. So I'm hoping all our visions can gel together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll touch down on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Clive. We've got 2 or 3 minutes left in this program. I'm really pleased that we've been able to make our mark in what is called World Space Week. And just to, for those who came on a bit later, so our role is to increase space education, public outreach, with our priority focus on sustainable development. And as we now say, space and sustainable development. Our overall program, Space Pathway to Opportunities. So our program of activities will showcase how space science and technology align with the Sustainable Development Goals. So we've mentioned agriculture, disaster management, which is so important, given the theme of this year is space and climate change. So communities such as Landui are very vulnerable. And in many of these smaller neighborhoods and communities, they need disaster management centers, STEM education. And we see that's a great opportunity, as outlined by Dean, for talent development. There's so many different pathways that can be explored. Environmental monitoring. Tonya spoke about that, the importance of the data and then being able to connect into the broader markets, because, and then also to know exactly what should and shouldn't be grown, or what is best to be grown, and making best use of the natural resources. And of course, Michael touched on the sports performance, but we talk about health and sports because a lot of the innovative activity that goes on in health research moves backwards and forwards between what's research for public, particularly these days with the focus on long-term conditions, which is a generational issue now. So, so you can see that there's such a great opportunity to think about space and technology by following this route. So today's just our first meeting. And of course, Joel Singh from GEC Space Program really set the agenda for us at the very beginning.
And you know what excites me the most is to know that this is the first meeting of this type to set the stage. Yeah. So I don't miss out on anything. I'm starting from the beginning. Yeah. I know I could get it on recording, but just to be here right now excites me. There is a community in Jamaica. You talk about
Landui in St. Thomas.
In St. Thomas, I don't know there, but I'm seeing it like I'm seeing Dunsville in St. and a little bit out of Portugal.
Yes.
I'm seeing the table set there, no plate on it, no pot, no nothing, just the empty place waiting for ventures like these.
Excellent.
To lift the community and put it into space on earth and space in the space.
I love that. Space on earth and space in space.
Space in the space. Yeah. God bless you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. So Jenny, you got a last word or two?
I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm very passionate about science myself, and I like to pass that on to young students. I came into the charity via teaching and just saw the difference that teaching in a slightly different way and letting children be in charge means that they give a lot more of themselves and end up being very confident. And I think that's what we all want in the future. Very nice to hear from all of you. I find this stage very exciting, and really appreciate being here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And that is the focus that in the end we've got everybody to focus their mind on. It's about that future generation. That to me is the serious domain where we really want to get the innovative thinking. Create some new systems. This is a great opportunity for new systems, taking a wider view of things. This is what I'm focused on, really. Alison?
Yes, I thought this has been a fabulous meeting to hear all the range of ideas and things that are going on. I probably should mention that on our environmental version of our settlement design challenge, one of our veterans, one of the students who he's an adult now who did our competition when he was a student, is setting up a Barbados version of the environmental design challenge, not run as a competition but as a challenge, a standalone event just for the purposes. They will look at Sierra Leone. So, and then we'll create material so then they can compare problem solving for Sierra Leone versus problem solving for Barbados. I know Barbados is not next door. It's about 2,000 kilometers away, I think, from Jamaica. But it's nice that within the region.
It's still the same region. We're all connected. The UK link, we've got mixed heritage of Jamaicans and Barbadians. It's all one community.
And this particular lad has grown up in Britain with a dad from Barbados and a mum from Thailand. And he's had never been to Barbados, actually, but he's trying to create this joint venture scheme between our charity and a local environmental charity in Barbados. So one of the things I would say is it's nice to hear that so many people have different perspectives, but they find what's already out there and leverage it and efficiencies, use what's there, and then repurpose and join on to. So it's very nice to hear.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Alison, because we do have links across in Barbados as well in terms of some of the community development work we're involved in. So it will be good to connect.
Opportunity to people to learn more about space innovate, get them thinking, the critical thinking, bring it out of them, and get them to know how to collaborate among themselves, and then develop or start from one development and expand it to something different, and then grow from there, and something that will be useful for everybody. It's not just for those regions of the world. Whatever they come up with, it can be useful for anybody in the world. And that's the way to go. And Imperial College, this is something Imperial College didn't want to do 10, 15 years ago, to have a campus away from Imperial. To even taught anybody away from Imperial. They believe everybody have to come to the campus. Now it's all changed. So we're creating campuses, we're creating hubs all over the world now. 4 of them have been set up this year, and many more yet to come. So we're in an opportunity to spread the knowledge.
Michael, then final comment from
I just really wanted to take the opportunity with you. Thank you for inviting me to this platform. I think it's not only is this revolutionary, but I think it's great for the future, not just for us, but certainly for our children and our grandchildren, we hope. So thank you.
Joel, if you'd like to say a few closing words.
I'd just like to say that the space industry is quite inspirational within the UK, and listening to some of the words from the individuals that's been on the panel now, I have to say, especially with Imperial College as well, a lot of the programs, a lot of experience that's around the call now at the moment. I think we've got a phenomenal team to really create a lot of noise within the space industry, and for us to get quite a lot done as well. I think it's a real ecosystem, and I'd like to thank you, Rudy, for giving us the opportunity to sort of, shape this, and for this to be a starting off point where we can actually see where this is going, like in the next year. So I think that's really great. So I think, so I just want to say we really appreciate it, or we as GEC really appreciate the opportunity here, and we'd like to be here again. And if any of the other colleagues around the table want to reach out, please feel free, and we're happy to help. So
okay, and happy to pass on your details. Great, thank you for that, Joel. The support from GEC Space Programme is really, really important. I'd just like to acknowledge Dean E. Banks, again another stalwart. Thank you, Dean E. Banks, for attending. Winner City, he says all communities are winners. He represents about 12 or 15 communities around Kingston, and so it's an integral part of this. So again, this is very much going to be about knowledge sharing as well as family and community building. So with that, I'd like to say good night, and thank you very much everyone for joining us for our first World Space Week dialogue. And of course, we're saying that space is a pathway to opportunities. Thank you and good night.